Welcome to this week's Tech Show, where we're on the Pacific shore in the wonderful Laguna Beach. It is very nice. And in this week's Tech Show, we've got a new dropper post from SRAM. We've got bigger news than bigger wheels. We've got some new helmets and much, much more. This week's topic is really big, much bigger than bigger wheels. And it's going to affect lots and lots of people within the industry. And I think it may affect some big brands and push them beyond the brink. Mountain biking is a global sport. I mean, it's literally in the name of our channel, Global Mountain Bike Network. And just this week, we've had the UCI XC Racing kickoff in Brazil. We've had one of the world's biggest trade shows in Taipei, in the heart of Asia. And then, well, this coming week, pretty much tomorrow, we've got an incredible show coming from Sea Otter in California. Mountain biking is global, and it's been that way since we started, really. Specialized moved its manufacturing for those first stump jumpers to Japan, and that was because the technical know-how and the scale and volume of production was only possible in Japan. As the kind of world markets changed, that place moved to Taiwan, and a lot of manufacturing is now based there. And that's where lots of high-end manufacture is based. But world markets change a lot, and tariffs are coming in. So tariffs, just a kind of brief overview, are a tax that is applied to a product that's being imported. So for example, let's take tyres. If I am a tyre brand and I'm importing them into a country, then the country that I'm importing them from doesn't pay. I have to pay that tariff before I can sell them in that country. And tariffs aren't new. They've been used for a long, long time, and there's lots of them around. I mean, the World Trade Organization has tried to use them in the past to help with developing countries. So they've lowered by small percentage points the import duties that you would have for different products. And I say different products, I mean kind of, the difference between a sporting shoe and a kind of work shoe would have potentially different tariffs. And they've been used to help different countries. But the new world market we're waking up to has completely changed. It is really game-changing, and it is bigger than if we have 32-inch wheels or even 36-inch wheels. This stuff is really big. So almost all countries that now import into the USA are going to have a blanket tariff of 10%. Taiwan, for example, will have an increased tariff into the USA of 32%. China is going to have an increased tariff to 69% into the USA. Japan, an increase of 24%. EU is going to have an increased tariff of 20%. These are really big, very fast changes, and they're going to have very wide-ranging effects. What does that mean for the industry? Well, we're going to chat to an expert, someone from Crankbrothers, the CEO, to find out more. We're joined by Crankbrothers CEO, Gaspare. Hi, thanks for joining us. And, well, there's been some huge changes in the kind of market, global markets. And some of the kind of intricacies are tricky to discuss. Some of them are quite political, and we're going to stay apolitical, but we need to talk about what's just happened in regards to, well, tariffs and the impacts that that's going to have, because the mountain bike world is global, whether you kind of like it, when you think it's really a good thing, which I think it can be. But yeah, it's going to have really big changes. So I guess just briefly, you're able to discuss what those impacts might be if you're just a regular mountain biker in the UK or in the US.
Yeah, I think, first of all, for mountain biking, tariffs are the opposite of what our culture is.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things I love the most about mountain biking is how much you go ride everywhere in the world and you are part of the same family. Canadian and Americans, European, and even Crankbrothers. Our company is made by Americans, Italian, British, Canadian, Taiwanese.
Yeah.
So we are really a melting pot of different cultures. And we lived and we keep living on this global world. We travel all around the world and we feel really part of the same family. Clearly, tariffs, they don't go in this direction. And they're gonna make the supply chain very complicated. At the same time, I don't know if the tariffs that were announced a couple of days ago will stay in place the way they are.
Yeah.
So our take for now is, first of all, wait and see. it's not something I like to do. Usually what I like to do is to act, but I learn over time to be patient and see what is gonna really happen. We are gonna discuss internally different hypotheses of what can be done if the tariffs are gonna be the same that were announced. I personally don't believe they will be the same, but if they will, we will have to decide how much we can absorb, how much the consumer or the customers will have to absorb of this tariff. I believe Crankbrothers as a brand needs to be focused on making the best product possible and innovate and deliver the best consumer experience. This is where we are strong. We are not the best one in keeping to look supply chain and move from Taiwan to Vietnam to Europe or to US. That's not our asset. So we're gonna be probably followers and try to do what makes the most sense to be able to deliver that consumer experience at the most fair price for the consumer. And our industry has in US has a very good trade association called People for Bike, that they are gonna fight for that. At the same time, this government doesn't look too bike friendly, and our industry is very small to be really relevant in Washington. So hopefully this great group of people are gonna be able to generate some positive change. Realistically, I don't know how much because of the size of our industry.
Yeah.
The other element which is gonna be pretty disruptive is some companies that have manufactured in US, they're gonna have an advantage in US, but probably a disadvantage in Europe.
Yeah.
Unless you double the manufacturing, Europe is gonna put tariff, as well as Asia. So it's gonna create much more autarkic and closed economy, whereas probably volumes are gonna be affected, which means that if volume get affected, you produce less, even not just the tariff, but even the unit cost is gonna go higher.
Yep.
So it doesn't look like it's gonna be great for consumers. At the same time, if it's a base for the US government to negotiate better trade deal for US, maybe it's gonna solve itself. One thing that I'm a little bit concerned is about, it happened already with Canada, and it's very painful emotionally, especially for me and other people here, is what is happening in terms of division between US and other countries. We received a couple of emails of Canadian people that love our brand.
Yep.
And they say, I don't know if they're gonna be able to buy Crankbrothers again because it's an American company. And it's painful because we don't feel, I mean, we are based in US, but we feel to be a global company because that's who we are. We love US, I live here, my kids are American. And I love Italy, my family is in Italy, I have a lot of friends in Canada. So I'd love to see a world where you buy our products because you like it, not because it comes from Taiwan or US or Canada. Like, buy our products if you think is what suits for you, is the best for you, not because of the flag that is behind the product.
And I guess that reinforces, well, it sounds cheesy, but, you know, Crankbrothers, the whole, my understanding is of you know, the two founders, Carl and Frank, they rode loads of bikes, and there's that fraternity and there's that friendship and there's that family of bikes. And you're right, mountain bike products now for, I would say actually every brand, even if you're a manufacturer, let's say you're a manufacturer in the US of carbon bikes, there's a good chance that the carbon that you're using is potentially from Japan or from Taiwan. And then with Taiwan, there's so much, even there's like so many different products coming in from different places. It does feel a shame that we're all mountain bikers first and last, and that's where we should sort of like pull ourselves together.
So if you look at this pedal, and I should know it, but I don't know, probably there are 30, 40 components. We should ask to the technical team. And probably those components, they come from at least 5 different countries. And then the material of those components maybe comes from other 5 countries. So the complexity of this is pretty deep. And we are talking about a pedal. Imagine when you do products that are even more sophisticated than a pedal.
Yeah.
What happens? So one of the hardest things in business is uncertainty. And I hope that whatever is going to happen, there's going to be more clarity. Because at least that's when you can start planning and then execute in the best way that companies can possibly do.
Yeah, and I think when companies can know when to plan, it is better for consumers. And I think that is one of the take-homes of all of this is that, okay, this is happening. There's not so much that we can do about it, but as a sort of like consumer, I guess it is stick to those brands that are still investing in mountain biking, wherever they are. If they're investing in mountain biking, then they are helping all of us as sort of like a family of mountain bikers move forward. And then let's hope there's more clarity, I guess, in the future in these kind of global world markets changing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay, that's a lot of food for thought. I think the big take home is we hope that there's going to be changes to these tariffs, because at the moment, the impacts are it's just going to be higher prices for all consumers. And I think wherever you live, higher prices, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing for mountain bikers. And with that in mind, we are all mountain bikers. So I know it's really easy to get quite heated in the comments. We're not having a conversation with someone, we're just kind of typing our opinions. And it's really easy to misinterpret those. But on this topic, let's try and be the best mountain bikers that we can be. We're united by the fact that we like riding bikes off-road, and that is a really fantastic thing. And that passion and love for riding bikes is what we need to think about when we're typing the comments, especially on this topic. I know it will get heated, but let's try and keep a really kind of cool and calm mind. Of course, if you want to get heated and you want to kind of start throwing kind of mud at people because they like 36s or 32s, or that you think 26 is dead, that is no problem. If you want to rant about different brake pad materials, great, not a problem. But let's try and keep calm fingers as we type on this tariff comments. It could be explosive. Okay, into the news, and we've got a new dropper post from SRAM. Whilst the name is the same, it's the Axis Reverb, it is actually a very new post. So the original Reverb was, well, I think the best way of thinking about it is a bit like an air shock that was in a seat post shape. That's how it worked. It was relatively complex. It used a kind of hydraulic lockout, and yeah, if you ever try to service one, there are a lot of parts. So this all new seat post, again, while the name is the same, it is completely different. And it's using what SRAM are calling air over air design. And from what I can understand, it's effectively like a really big air spring. So at the locked out top position, it is solid, and at the locked out bottom position, it's solid. But in between, there is what SRAM called active ride built-in complacent. So active ride is what they're calling it. Effectively, it kind of turns into a bit of a squishy seat post, which I think actually for tech climbs where you kind of just seated might be a really good thing. Anyway, the service interval is much longer, so that's a good thing. It's operated by the same Axis controller. The battery is in a new position, so it should get, well, less mud on it, and there's less risk of it sort of getting knocked by your rear tyre if you're like me and have to ride a really small bike. The other big news is the number of sizes, and I've got to check here because there are so many different sizes. So we've got 100mm, we've got 125mm, we've got 150mm, 175mm, 200mm. That is a very long post, but there's more. There's a 225mm post and a 250mm post. That is huge. Pricing is a little bit reduced. It's still spendy, so it's around $550, around £535, and around €600. But as we've talked about before, these prices will most likely change. Physique, yes, they're a brand that we know from, well, shoes. We know them from saddles as well, but now we might know them from another contact point, which is helmets. So they've got, well, a whole new collection. They've got road helmets, they've got mountain bike helmets. Obviously, we're just going to focus on the road helmets. They've got the Kudo, which is their kind of, I guess, cross-country and, dare I say, gravel helmet. So it's peakless, it's lightweight, designed to tackle those long mountain climbs and gravel adventures. It's very nice. Then we've got the Cassis, which is, well, Physique set combines exceptional ventilation with enhanced protection. It's got a deeper fit around the back, so it's lightweight and durable. For me, I think they do look really good. They've got in-moulded EPS PC construction, so there's extra strengthening sections in them. The adjustability is something that I've not seen on a helmet before. So you've got your normal ratchet on the back, and you've got the normal sort of like high and low position. But on the front of the helmet, sort of around the temple, you can change the shape of how it clamps to your head. It's quite innovative. We've got some video here. All helmets are CE, CN, big numbers, safety standards. This is the cool bit though. All of them are 5-star rated by the Virginia Tech ratings. That is impressive. I think some of that might be down to the great design, could be down to the MIPS air node on the inside. Other nice features, it's got an integrated, well, it can be a blank, it can be a little reflector, or it can be an LED light. I really like to see that. The light is really nice. It's about 35 lumens of light, so it's quite bright. It's USB-C rechargeable with a little magnet cover. So pricing. We've got the Kudo at £269.99 and £189.99 for the Cassis. Again, these prices may change depending on where you live. So, Camelback return to the top level of XC racing because they're sponsoring one of the most successful teams out there, which is the Scott SRAM XC team. So, the likes of Nino Schurter and Filippo Colombo will be racing the bottles, and they'll be racing the Chase packs, which we also use on the channel here. They've already put them to good use because Nino and Filippo have already won the Cape Epic. So, yeah, clearly useful for keeping up hydration. Okay, there's a new bike here, a new bike brand. It is Avona, and they claim that they've built the world's lightest full suspension frame, and it's called the Silver. And when you say full suspension frame, I imagine you're thinking, oh, maybe it's a flex day. But no, this is like a proper suspension bike in terms of it's got one pivot and then it's got a clever sliding rail setup. So the total weight, including a rear shock, is 1.764 kgs or 3.89 pounds. So it is really light. And they've used, as I mentioned, a slider to create, well, getting rid of a pivot, and it boosts stiffness so they can make it lighter elsewhere. It is really clever stuff. Unfortunately, my jet lag brain means that I can't remember. I have seen another German brand use this, so let me know in the comments what that brand was. Whilst it is super light, it does have between 105 millimeters of rear travel and 115, and the geometry is actually quite modern. We've got a 65-degree head angle, a 76-degree seat angle, and then a reach which is pretty generous of 495 millimeters, and that's in a large. So yeah, two sizes at the moment, just a medium and a large, and pricing starts at €3,499. Those prices again might change. Hunt have got new wheels. They've got all new Enduro wheels. It's their sort of iteration 3, hence the name V3. So they've been testing them for 2 years, and these are aluminium rimmed. So they've got a front and rear specific profile. So they're slightly wider, and there's a different rim profile as well for extra strength. And they're laced to an all new hub, which is called the H-Ratchet XL 40T. It's actually quite a clever hub, and it's also packed with Enduro bearings, which should mean it lasts a lot longer. They've not scrimped on other details too, so it's got triple butted spokes, 28 hole on the front and 32 hole on the rear, and they're hand built with brass nipples and nipple washers as well. So that means that the nipples should be able to slide and rotate within those rims a little bit. They're available in 29, 27.5 and mixed wheel sizes. The weight for the 29er option is 2,096 grams. 27.2 or 650B is 2,022 grams. Seems odd, there's not that much weight saving there, so there must be some other details in there. Pricing from UK pounds, $499, so £499. Current pricing in dollars is 650, but again, that will change. Interesting stuff. And finally, the reason why we're here in this incredible, just beautiful location is because there is the Sea Otter Classic coming up basically tomorrow, where we get to see all the hottest brands and all the latest tech. So join me on a whirlwind tour very, very soon. Quiz time. I do love the quiz. Last week I asked you, SRAM was in the news, and actually SRAM is in the news this week as well because I've got that new Reverb dropper post. But what was SRAM's first mountain bike product? Lots of people Well, lots of people actually guessed wrong because they thought RMX, they thought other products. But the first product was Grip Shift. That's right, lots of winners here on screen now, so well done to you all. Okay, this week we've got a really good question. Earlier this week we were at the wonderful Crankbrothers HQ just up the road from Laguna Beach, and it was really amazing. And I've got a really good question. It's a real hard one, which is, how many successive years has the Mallet DH pedal won the, well, men's and women DH World Championship? It is a really challenging question. Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, this week's top mod is an incredible gearbox belt drive bike. I mean, I'm just speechless. That paint finish is incredible, helped by the brother of the builder, who, yeah, is a car painter. But it is amazing. He's kind of combined a couple of frames from zero to make his dream bike. It is amazing. Okay, now my favourite part of the show, which is comments. And last week we were in Taipei and we saw quite a lot of noise and product that was hinting that we might move to 32-inch wheels for some bikes. And yeah, to say it was controversial would be, well, very light. Spirios says, please create any wheel size you like, just make sure it's 26-inch again. So we've got P Cadet, 32 inch is going to be what 29er is to 29er, was to 26. So are they going to release a 30.5-inch wheel in the next couple of years? Maybe it's there already, because Wilderness Trail a couple of years ago teased a 750D. Corral 53, he's like, oh, well, it's diminishing returns of innovation. The sort of industry is going a bit bonkers. And yeah, they need to realise that they need to kind of like build a different path opposed to just building newness, or words to that effect. Yeah, interesting. He's saying it's tired and played out. I'm not sure that's the case, to be honest. I think actually brands are looking to give riders a different ride experience. I don't think it's quite as marketing-led as you might think. We also had a lot of comments actually about the SRAM T-Type, which was the cable version of T-Type, which was really good to see. So Rob Hill said, yeah, having cheaper cassette chain for T-Type, which is compatible with all their other T-Type transmission, will be a good thing. But he wishes they'd make harder wearing e-bike stuff. Yeah, it feels odd, that. It feels like a gap. Zed Poutine says, hang on, I can replace a bent dropout on the side of the trail because I carry a spare mech. But I also kind of carry with me in my car an unbending tool to get the hanger in the same position. With those 70 and 90 T-Type rear mechs from SRAM, there's no way that I could carry all the parts if I dented it on the trail. Yeah, it's an interesting point, isn't it? And then Ern Lally says, yeah, SRAM's UDH was never about the hanger. It was always about the T-Type transmission. It was a Trojan horse, if you will. A very good point. Right, to wrap up, well, what are we looking forward to this week? Well, we have got absolutely loads coming from Sea Otter. So tune in for the greatest and latest from there.